Hello, I'm Leona Dooley, and this is Ebony, Ivy, and Thyme in the kitchen. And today in the kitchen, we are going to prepare some apple pecan chocolate chip cookies. Does that not sound wonderful? And we're doing it this way because we are still celebrating apples. Those apples are coming out. I went to the store and oh my goodness, they had some beautiful apples. And I just had to bring a bunch of them home. And I also still had a little bit of apple pie filling in my freezer. So I thought, a little bit of fresh apple, a little bit of the apple pie filling, put that together with some pecans and a chocolate chip base. They are delicious. And I can tell you they're delicious because at this point, I have already tasted them. I'm actually doing this portion of the clip after the cookies were already ready because I wasn't sure how they were going to come out. I was testing the recipe. But oh my gosh, the smell of those cookies when they come out of the oven, they're going to fly. Now, there's one thing about storing them that you do need to know. You cannot store these cookies in a very, very tight container because they are moist. You'll want to keep them in a cool place like the refrigerator, and also put them in a Ziploc bag and leave the Ziploc bag partially open so that it can have a little airflow. But you know, the thing of it is, I did that, been there, done that, and took these cookies to a little neighborhood get together, and guess what? The entire plate of the cookies was gone almost by dinner time. So I'm telling you, these are great cookies. So if you like apples, you like pecans, and you like those chocolate chips, this is a winner. So get ready. If you like it, stay tuned. In this bowl, I have a softened stick of butter. That's a half cup. And I'm going to add 1 egg. Now notice that I'm putting the egg in a separate container, and I'm going to crack that egg and make sure that it's okay, and then I'll add it to the bowl. I have my favorite wooden spoon ready, and I'm just going to give everything a little mix before it's time to actually use the mixer. I have 1 cup of brown sugar that I'm placing into these cookies, and it does not use regular granulated sugar, just brown sugar. So I'm just giving everything a good stir. So that's 1 cup of brown sugar, 1 egg, and a half cup of butter that has been softened. Now, we're going to kind of clean that spoon off so that we can really get down to business and get this mixed up, because it doesn't take long to run this recipe, but it does require quite a few ingredients. So I'm just going to give this a really good beat until that brown sugar is well incorporated into the butter and egg mixture. And it's going to get light and fluffy. It's going to be really pretty, very, very, very fluffy. It's going to almost look like chocolate whipped cream. And so I'm using my spatula to just kind of wipe down the sides, and you'll notice that it's going to look a little dry, but I promise you there is nothing dry about these cookies. So let's give them a little more of a beat. You know, you can spend all day at this point beating the eggs, the butter, and the sugar. The part of your recipe that needs to be short and sweet is when you add the flour. Now, into the flour, I have my baking soda, a half teaspoon. I have salt, 1/2 teaspoon, and I have a teaspoon of cinnamon. So I'm just going to kind of mix all that together and just kind of incorporate it. It's not going to be totally mixed, but it will go into the recipe a little easier. So that's why I'm taking the time to do that. You don't have to. You can certainly just throw it in on top and then go. But what you don't want is a mouthful of baking soda or a mouthful of cinnamon. So that's why we're making sure that those spices and the additions are, and the leavening agents are mixed up. Now we're going to beat, and we're not going to beat a long time. We're just going to beat long enough for this to come together, and it's on low, the lowest setting that my mixer had. That's what I'm using. So we want to make sure that everything is well mixed. And you know, I can tell you now what I'm going to do with this is that once those cookies are ready, now these are our apples, the apple pie portion, you know, that I told you that I've been working on trying to use up. So I still had a little more left. So here's our apple pie that's going in. We're going to mix that up, and I had chopped those up very, very fine with my chopper so that there's going to be apple in just about every bite. But it's not going to be like applesauce. It's going to be chunky. So we're getting that apple in there and getting it well incorporated. Now once we do that, we'll add the pecans, and last but not least, we're going to add the chocolate chips, and that's going to be so good. Here we go. We got chopped pecans, and I have I say about a half cup, but I really have more. It's probably closer to a cup of chopped pecans, just because we like pecans, and it's pecan season. So let's use them. They are so good, and they make these cookies very good, because these cookies are going to be soft, and if you like a soft cookie, then this is the one you want. In fact, this is one of those cookies that you could, if you wanted one before you went to bed, you could put it in the microwave for a few seconds, warm it up again, and then take it out. And the chocolate is melty again. The cookie is nice and warm. Oh my goodness, how delicious. This would be so good. And to have it with ice cream, why not? So let's go to those chocolate chips. Now, you know, there's a measurement for the chocolate chips to use approximately a half cup, but I put chocolate chips in according to what, you know, when I look at it, what it looks like. Is it chocolatey enough? Do I want more? So you can see this is a half cup measure. So that's the second one, second filling. So I actually ended up putting in a cup of chocolate chips, and it was not too much. So 1 cup of chocolate chips. And these are so good. So let's get those nice and mixed. Now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to put this in the refrigerator for at least 30 minutes. And the reason for doing that is because I want these cookies to have a nice shape when they bake. And sometimes when the cookie dough is going to be a soft dough, it has a tendency to run. And I don't want my cookies to run and end up looking very flat. Uh-oh. Well, I guess you see I went back and added more chocolate chips. It just needed a little more. I mean, can a girl have some chocolate? Okay, so we're going to get those incorporated. But like I said, we're going to put this in the refrigerator. And you know, you could put the top on it. You could fix it one day and not bake them until the next day. You could actually roll it into a log and put them in your freezer and just cut them off as you wanted to bake them. But I am going to cook every one. I'm going to bake them, and we're going to set that oven on between 350 and 375. I think I'm going to start with 350 just to make sure that they don't burn. I'm going to line my pans with parchment paper so that they will be perfect. Now I've placed parchment paper on this pan, and I'm using an ice cream scoop. And so I'll see what will work best to get that cookie dough out of the ice cream scoop. I'm not sure if I'm going to use a spoon or if I'll go back and use a spatula. It looks pretty good. Now we're going to put these cookies about 2 inches apart. And I can tell you, even though, we put it in the refrigerator, I left it in for about an hour, it's still pretty sticky. So we're just going to continue to work through this, and I'm going to try to get a dozen on this pan. So let's just keep working. This would be a great opportunity if you wanted to put your cookies out, have them ready, put them on the parchment paper, and have the parchment just large enough to go inside a Ziploc bag. And you could actually put about 3 layers of cookies per parchment sheet, about a dozen cookies on top of a dozen cookies on top of a dozen cookies with parchment paper in between. And then that way you could just pull a dozen out and bake them. Now this is what I like to do when I'm trying to prepare for the holidays. I will prepare a lot of my cookie dough in advance so that all I have to do is to bake when the time comes. So, and this really is a good dough to be able to do that. I think it would freeze very well. So I'm just continuing to put it on the parchment. We're going to start it out at 350. And see, I don't want to tell you the time because I think at 350 it's probably going to bake a little slower. You want to bake them until they're a little brown. You can tell when it's still, you'll be able to tell the difference in color when that cookie is not quite ready. The center of that cookie on top, when you look at it on top, is going to be light, very, very light, while the rest of the cookie will be somewhat brown. So this is a pretty cookie when it bakes, and it looks just like brown sugar. So I'm going to wash my hands and get ready to put this pan in the oven. I have another pan that I'm going to fill up as well. Oh, here we go. We are working on that second fill up, and we're going to get that ready. So let's continue to add this to the sheet. We're just going to continue to add them and get another pan of cookies ready. You can see that some of those cookies are already baked, and so you know what they're going to look like. And let's just continue. They look good, they smell good, and at this point in front of me I have about 2 pans of cookies that are sitting there cooling. My plan is to take these cookies to a luau, and we're going to over to some friend's house, and we're going to take these. I think they'll be delicious. Now I'm just working right along, getting these onto the pan. Now, have you started thinking about what your Thanksgiving menu is going to look like? I have. And I'm thinking that I'm going to do some prep work. And so as I work on that preparation for Thanksgiving, I'm going to put together a playlist just for Thanksgiving week. And that's what we're going to call it, Thanksgiving week prep. Now you can see that we've got all those cookies done and everything's out of there. I'm trying to scrape to make sure that I have all of the cookie dough taken care of, and I'm going to just add it on to a cookie maybe that looks like it needs a little extra, and if I have enough room it might be big enough to make one. It sure did. How about that? So let me wash my hands and I'll get this last pan of cookies into the oven. And there they are. They are beautiful. So, I pray that you have a blessed week with your family, with your friends, that you're well, and I'll see you next week in the kitchen.